My name is Jonathan Schultz. I'm running for state senate here in the 28th district, which includes Greater Akron. Why did I want to run for state senate? Well, this area has really been underrepresented for a very long time. Unfortunately, we've had one party rule, which in most cases, when you look around the country, just doesn't work out too well. You can look at East Cleveland, close here to home. You can look at Detroit as the perfect example of that. And unfortunately, our politicians in general just continue to benefit themselves and not work to benefit us. And that's not how our government was supposed to work, and it's not benefiting us anymore. So many people feel like they don't even belong in the political process anymore. People have stopped voting because they just don't feel that their vote matters anymore. And it shouldn't be the case, and it doesn't have to be the case if we start electing people that actually will represent us and do their job. What is Ohio's biggest political issue? I've said from the very beginning of my campaign back in November of 2015 that education is the #1 priority for us here in Ohio. The funds have been moved around, and in a lot of cases in our district, we don't have the money to just run our schools in the basic way. So we have funding issues. Secondly, we have issues with our teachers where they're put into a one-size-fits-all approach. They're forced into a box where they can't even adjust to their students, and so then our students and teachers can't formulate relationships, so no one's benefiting from that. At the end of the day, if we can take care of the education issues, we can take care of so many of the other issues as a byproduct of that. And unfortunately, it hasn't been a priority for our representatives here in this area, and they haven't worked hard enough to do it. And I think in Columbus, we can make a very big impact and start to make a difference here in our education system. Well, my thoughts on the economy and jobs. A lot of politicians will talk about bringing jobs back and improving the economy, but they never really say how. My plan is pretty simple, and for this area will really benefit. Again, I talked about education, and that's #1 in putting our young people in a position to succeed. But we put so much of an emphasis on going to college that everything underneath that, if you want to go to community college, if you want to go to trade schools, makes it seem inferior to everything else when that's not the case. But you look at our state, the state of Ohio on another side of it, it's rated in the bottom 10% or the bottom 10 states in the country for business climate. And that comes down to tax burdens. That comes down to regulations on top of the 35% we're paying at the national level. Here in the state of Ohio, we have a lot of that going on. And so our business owners, they can't add jobs, they can't build their business, and in a lot of cases you have businesses moving to other places. They don't want to stay here, and they're not moving from other places into our state. So there's a lot of things at stake here in this election, and when you have jobs popping up in Columbus and in Cincinnati and areas like that, but in Summit County we're going in the wrong direction, it's obvious that if it works in other places, it can work here, but it's going to take the right people to get the job done. And how would I deal with the drug epidemic? Well, again, we see a lot of politicians talking about the drug epidemic. In my case, my opponent actually hasn't talked about it at all, which shows how out of touch he is with the situation. It's such a top issue, and it's an issue that doesn't discriminate against people based on gender and age and socioeconomic status. This is a multi-pronged approach that I have to this issue. First of all, we have to take care of the people that are caught in addiction. We put them, after an overdose, we put them in a bed for 24, 48 hours and then put them back on the street, and then they go right back to it. We need to bring our community organizations together, and so they're not battling each other, and give them the funding that they need to attack that issue head on, to approach the people that are already caught up in addiction. The other side, and nobody wants to talk about this, and it's so important, is that at the middle and high school levels, we don't have any drug education programs. We have the DARE program in elementary school at some of our schools. That's something that I went through, and it's good for the younger age groups when you have cartoon characters talking about drugs and the negative effects. But when we get into now, we have social media, we have cell phones, and really easy access to these things. We needed to have the kind of drug programming and education in our school system as these kids grow and start to access cars and things like that. And so we also have to balance the rehabilitation versus prison time, because throwing people in prison is not going to fix the issue. I would say my strongest qualification to be state senator is that I've spent my adult life in service. I am the founder and executive director of an organization called Dream Days, which creates and facilitates events for individuals with special needs throughout Northeast Ohio. We've done over 70 specialized events. This is something that I came up with. I thought there was a huge void for individuals with special needs here in our region, and it's been an unbelievable blessing for everybody involved. I've spent time with big brothers, big sisters. I've coached for over a decade in youth sports, and when we look at the issues that we need to deal with education, with the drug epidemic, with the economy and jobs, these shouldn't be political issues, these are human issues. And that's the approach that I take to everything. We need to work hard to make this world a better place. We only get one trip around this life, and unfortunately, we're not getting the type of representation that we deserve from our politicians. The original intent of our government is no longer in a lot of cases, and we need to start electing human beings that are going to take care of issues and not try to get political points or to personally benefit themselves, because at the end of the day, this isn't a game. This is about people's lives, about our present and our future, and that's what I'm committed to do as a state senator.